Well, a couple weeks ago, Melissa was back here changing out some bedding here in the bedroom and opening and closing the slide. And when the slide was coming in, it started to go like, and it stopped. Now, there's nothing. So then I came up here to the front and thought I should check the other slides and the other hydraulic stuff. So yeah, here on the slide out, same thing. Nothing. I fired up the engine, tried the hydraulic jacks, still nothing. I started troubleshooting some things. It appears to be an electrical issue. So I eventually narrowed it down to the motor that drives the hydraulic pump was bad. We'll hopefully fix it today. You know, I'm hoping just kind of sharing some of my troubleshooting and diagnostic steps might help you out if you encounter a similar problem. It could probably save you a lot of money if you're able to figure this out on your own. So let's jump right in. I'll break out the meter. I'll show you how I found out that the motor was bad. You know, the whole hydraulic system is totally foreign to me, and it was the part of the RV that I was least familiar with and the most intimidated by. I've been really kind of boning up and wanting to learn as much as possible about how this whole system works, and I think I'm getting there. I'll link to some of the resources that I found that were very helpful, some of them from HWH themselves, you know, the manufacturer of the whole hydraulic system. So yeah, that might be useful information if you have a similar system and you really want to learn how the whole system works, and it'll really help if there's a problem, and you'll be able to figure out what that problem is and hopefully, you know, replace that part yourself instead of paying somebody an arm and a leg to do it. Here's our manifold here. I removed the grill so that I could get better access to this this whole manifold system. You can see the number there. That's our part number and assembly information and all that. But yeah, you can see here we've got all of our solenoid valves. These 4 are for the jacks, and there's some hydraulic lines heading out, and there's a couple more valves down here that are for the slide outs. And the motor itself is located down below all of these valves and lines, and that's where we're going to be working. So let's crawl under. Okay, under here we can see a little bit more. So we have our motor here, and attached to the motor we have a couple of relays, and this is what actually switches the motor on and off and drives the pump inside here, which moves hydraulic oil through the system. When we say activate the slide, it turns on the pump by energizing this connection here. So it connects these two. This comes from the battery, so we've got we should have power from our chassis battery here, and then when we have 12 volts across these 2 points here, it will connect these 2 sides, and then it'll send power through, you know, our 12 volt power through to this point here on the pump. And the pump is actually internally grounded. There's no negative post on the pump. It's actually grounded to the whole assembly here, which is then grounded to the chassis. So I have a clamp here on the manifold itself, and then if we were to get my meter here, if we take this and then connect it here, I can see that I have 13.7 volts right now coming into this relay. And then right now I should have nothing going to the pump. Now, one thing I can check right off the bat here is to see if this relay is working. So if I keep this hooked up like this and move the meter where I can see it, then we can turn on the switch on the slide, and then we'll see if we get power to this point or to this point on the pump. Now when the pump gets power, it should fire right up. So if for some reason that this switching to turn on the relay isn't working properly, you can check a couple of fuses first. There are a couple of 20 amp fuses here, and there's also a 40 amp fuse on the top. Now, it's probably easier initially just to check the relay and see if that's working and sending power to the pump. So let's do that. Okay, so we're in the cab here by the driver's seat, and I brought my meter in here. I have a little extension, so you can see right now that there's no voltage coming in that's basically heading to the pump motor. Now if I hit the slide in button, okay, see it switches 12.8 volts. So what this is telling me is that the relay is working properly, the controller and everything is working properly, and there's voltage going to the motor that's driving the pump, but obviously it's not kicking on. So I'm thinking the motor is bad, so I order a new motor and I have it, and so that's what we're gonna swap out next. Well, first things first, before I get to tearing things apart, I'm going to disconnect the chassis battery, since that whole system's powered from this chassis battery here. So disconnect power before I start working on it. Let's double check, make sure there's no power. Yep, 0 volts, so safe to proceed. Take this off. Okay. Now the solenoids here are held on by this this cable clamp thing, so I'm just gonna loosen that up a little bit. Just release the cable from the pump. Loosen that up. Just that. Okay, so here's the pump cable. Yeah, we'll loosen up this clamp, and that should release this whole thing and free up the pump. Okay. So there we go. So both of these relays are connected to this clamp. So maybe we just leave that there. Using a 7mm socket, and there's just these 2 long bolts holding this thing in. Okay, there we go. Let's just start by loosening them up. Okay, there we go. Loosen up good. I'm going to loosen up the second one. There we go. Now this is I think an aluminum casing here, so I gotta be careful not to over torque them when I put it back. Okay, so let's just take these out. I'm really hoping that I purchased the right one. I got the one with the same part number, so we'll see if the piece inside actually is correct. I'm hoping it is, of course. Oh yeah, it's the right one. Okay. Motor out. Yeah, you can definitely see that there's a little bit of grime here that has come in. The documentation does say that it's not weather sealed up, and it doesn't really have to be, but obviously I think a little bit of cleaning would help in this case, so I'm going to do that. Okay. I'm going to reuse this bolt here that came off of the electrical connection here. It's a little bit corroded, so I'm going to clean that up first before we actually put it back on. Alright, that looks much better. Now one thing I noticed here is that I thought these little bolts here were going to come off and it would just clamp on, but it looks like they stay on, because if you look at this here, these has these little nylon ones and they line up with this lip here, so I think it's working kind of like a spacer also. So I don't think I have to, not gonna remove those, leave these on. I don't know if the nylon ones would be better than these metal ones. I don't think it really matters. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of grease here. Maybe that'll just help keep some of the moisture out of there. Seal it up nicely. Okay, let's get this back on. First thing I'm gonna do is try to line this up. So let's just put it up so it's vertical. And then I'll do the same here. Try to keep it nice and vertical. And then, hopefully, everything will line right up. How are we feeling? Feels pretty good. I don't know what the torque specs are here, but I'm gonna go based on what I felt when I removed it, so that feels about right. Okay, power here to the motor. Almost ready to test. What I want to do is take these off and just kind of clean those. Now the nice thing about this motor, and I'll put a link to the supplier, but they also threw in an extra relay just in case. So it's nice to have a spare on hand. I already have a spare, so now I have two. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this one on. I'm just gonna clean up the connections a little bit, tidy them up, and then put some stuff on there to keep it from corroding again in the future and give it a better connection. So I'll do that and then we'll give her a test. Got power, that's a good sign. Fire it up. Okay. We are back in business. Close the slides again. Awesome. Let me double check the jacks. Yep. We're good. I'm gonna store everything. So far so good. Now back in the bedroom. Back in. Awesome. Well, there we go. Everything is back up and running again, and I'm really happy about this. You know, it just goes to show that, you know, with every project, every repair job like this, you just get a little bit smarter and you learn more about how your rig works. I'm just gonna check this one off the list and move on. Take it easy. I'll see you in the next one.